So great. With that, we'll call the regular meeting of Township Council for Monday, April 15th to order. Of course, I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional territories of the Coast Salish peoples, and in particular, our valued relationships with the Katzie, Kwantlen, Matsqui, and Semiahmoo First Nations. With that, can I get a motion to adopt the agenda amended? I'm going to move it as amended. Actually, I'll move it as amended to move item E5 to the end of the meeting after the conclusion of other business. So I'll move that as amended. Seconded by Councillor Bailey. Any discussion on A1? Call a question on A1 as amended. That carries unanimously. Councillor Bailey, I'm going to hand it over to you for item A2. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's an important day coming up. This will be the April 28th, and we've got a speaker about it later, so I don't want to steal any of her thunder. I know she's very capable of speaking it, but this is a very important day for not only labor but for everyone in the province, and to recognize the sacrifices made by workers in this province. So I'd like to move that we have a moment of silence to recognize April 28th, Day of Mourning for Dead and Injured Workers.
Great, thank you. Get a motion, please, to adopt the regular council meeting minutes from March 25th. Moved by Councillor Rint, seconded by Councillor Bailey. Question on B1. Carries unanimously. Get a motion, please, to adopt the public hearing meeting minutes from March 25th. Moved by Councillor Rint, seconded by Councillor Ferguson. Question on B2. That carries. Councillor Richter opposed. Delegations, Ms. C1 from Luella Vincent, President of the New West District Labour Council. Please come forward. And thank you for coming here today.
Good afternoon. My name is Luella Vincent, and I'm the president of the New West and District Labour Council, and I'm a member of the Hospital Employees Union. Each year, the New Westminster and District Labour Council presents to city councils and school boards within our region to seek their support and recognition of April 25th as the day of mourning for workers killed and injured on the job. We believe workplace health and safety is everyone's responsibility. This year, workers across Canada are sharing that it's important to have safe work now. In 2022, almost 1,000 people in Canada died as a result of their work. Too many families lose loved ones to occupational diseases, and we know that these numbers are just the tip of the iceberg because they only include fatalities accepted by the workers' compensation system. In cases of workplace exposure to toxic materials and chemicals like asbestos, effects only become apparent months, years, or decades later. We also know that workplace injuries, accidents, and illnesses are severely underreported. In 2022, the most recent year that there is data available, WorkSafe BC reported people missed 3.99 million days of work due to work-related incidents and disease. WorkSafe BC also reported that they accepted 181 work-related deaths. And our thoughts and sympathy go out to the family of those workers. The industries with the most claims reported were healthcare and social services, general construction, retail, transportation and related services, and tourism and hospitality. Behind each of these statistics is a working person, a family, a friend, maybe your neighbor. These are people in your community, and the impacts from a workplace injury go far beyond time away from work. We can and we must do better. Accountability is critical when it comes to health and safety at work. As workers, we hold each other accountable, reporting injuries, issues and dangers, and actively participating in joint health and safety committees. We call on employers to invest in meaningful prevention measures, to offer robust ongoing training, to identify workplace hazards and develop an action plan for addressing them. We need to ensure worker participation in developing and monitoring the systems that will make workplaces safer. Education is key prevention, especially for young workers, with 11% of workers injured in 2022 being under the age of 25. Teachers and support workers in schools and programs like BC Federation of Labor's Alive After 5, together with employer commitment to training, are critical to making sure young workers are not only safe at work, but also not face lifelong impacts from preventable workplace injuries. We are also calling on levels of government to ensure accountability for workplace health and safety. This year marks the 20th anniversary of the West Rail Law coming into effect. Named for the coal mine in Nova Scotia where 26 men working underground lost their lives in an explosion. The law introduced a legal duty and accountability into the Criminal Code of Canada for corporations and individuals to take steps to prevent harm at work. A key piece of enforcement of the law is ensuring police and lawyers receive appropriate retraining and that prompt and thorough investigations are carried out. Construction is one of the industries with the highest reported claims, and the International Union of Operating Engineers is sounding the alarm after 4 recent events involving tower cranes. We are approaching 3 years from the tragic events of July 12, 2021, when a tower crane collapsed in Kelowna, killing 5 workers. To date, the RCMP have recommended 1 criminal charge of negligence causing death. They have not said who that charge is recommended for, and WorkSafe BC has not shared their investigation report with the public or even with the industry stakeholders. We still haven't taken the necessary steps to improve safety in and around tower cranes. Our province missed an important opportunity to become the leaders in tower crane safety across Canada following that incident. We may never know if the effect of not acting when we should have played a part in the 4 recent incidents involving tower cranes. We may never know if we could have prevented the most devastating of those incidents, which took the life of Yuridia Flores, a mother of 2, who died because she went to work. Work shouldn't hurt, and work shouldn't kill. Unions in BC have fought hard for gains in ensuring appropriate WorkSafe BC coverage, but we know prevention, like improving tower crane safety, is the most important action we can take. And I'd like to share with you some measures that we can all support to ensure workers are safe on the job. 1, provide adequate personal protective equipment that fits all body types and users. 2, create a national plan to remove toxic substances like asbestos from workplaces. 3, strengthen laws that protect workers against violence and harassment. And 4, ensure workers know their rights and have the tools to be safe on the job. As union members, we call on all governments at all levels to remove barriers to joining a union, to ensure all workers have the protection and the rights that come with a union card, because strong unions make safe workplaces. Unions in BC have a long history of advocacy and taking action on workplace health and safety. I'd like to conclude by inviting you to join our Labour Council this day of mourning for workers killed and injured on the job on Sunday, April 28th at 11 a.m. in Westminster Pier Park in New Westminster. Links to the events are on the Labour Council website and Facebook pages. Everyone here today can help us make a difference. Be safety conscious, support accountability measures, and health and safety education in your workplaces. Together, it's possible to have a safe work now. Thank you for your time. Respectfully submitted by the New Western District Labor Council.
Great. I'm not seeing any questions, but I want to thank you here for coming here today. There's a question there now. Thank you for coming here today and again highlighting the importance of the issue, reminding us of the incident in Kelowna, reminding us that there's a lot of work yet to be done. When I was graduating from high school, I actually went to work in construction for a while, and it turned out how poor I was at it, and how maybe I was suited for other things that would be better utilized for me, because I ran my fingers through a table saw, and probably one of the most painful experiences of my life. And workers' compensation at that time was there, but the employer wasn't. And I really do reiterate the value of the work that you're doing to highlight the need for safety in the workplace, even for younger workers like myself at the time when I was 17, not properly trained to be operating a piece of dangerous equipment like that. So again, I really value it personally, and I know others do as well that have had similar experiences in the workplace. Councillor Bailey, go ahead.
Yeah, Luella, thanks for coming today and reminding us the importance of April 28th. I have to apologize. I'm going to be in the middle of the Pacific Ocean on April the 28th, and I'm actually going to try to get the cruise director to see if we can do a moment of silence on the cruise ship. I come from an industry where people associate buildings falling on us and all that kind of stuff. And little do they know that it's actually cancer and heart attacks that kill firefighters and disable us more than anything else. So thank you for standing up, not only for unionized workers, but I know how much unions help non-unionized workers in their struggle for a recognition of OH&S issues. So thank you very much.
I thank you for taking the time, and thank you for recognizing that unions aren't here just for union people. We're here for everybody, because what we get, so do the people that don't have what we have.
Great, and I'll be there on the 28th as well.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'll be speaking there again.
Well, I'll see you there.
Thanks.
Okay,
I'm sorry I have to leave to go to another meeting.
Totally understand. Thank you again for coming here today. Next delegation, Avatar Man from Piston Transport. Please come forward.
Okay. Good afternoon to all the members here and everybody present in the room. I am not a professional speaker, so I'll just came here with a real issue that we're dealing on a day-to-day basis. Parking issue.
Could you just start with your name and the company you work for or who you represent? That'd be great. Thanks. Yeah.
My name is Avatar Man from Piston Transport. I've been doing trucking for over 15 years. And been in Langley for over 10 years. Yeah. So this is an ongoing issue. We all know about it. Everybody understands how trucking is important in our economy on day-to-day basis. We move stuff, everything that we found in our house, right from a needle to a big mega site. Everything that we see around us have been moved through truckers at some point. But the thing that we all miss is where do they go after they do the deliveries, after they do their goods delivered, right? Nobody wants to see us. Everybody expects us to do a job and then just disappear in the air. Nobody wants to see us. Even when we go to our shippers and receivers, they don't entertain us. Like, they want us to be in, like, within that 1 hour frame of an appointment. They don't want to see us. They want us to be gone like right away. Even if we would show up like 2 hours before, we would be turned around. And we are having these big rigs. We can be driving, cutting corners, and driving around the city all day long, right? We all understand we do need trucking, but the only problem that most people, I would say, unfortunately, the thing that we don't understand is, where do these trucks go? We need parking. We gotta park these trucks somewhere. And in today's scenario, all these truck parking lots which were available before are just not available now. I mean, everything is full, packed, jammed. There is nowhere to go. Okay. So why truck parkings? Truckers need rest. Rest is mandated by law. We gotta do our shift. We gotta take our 10 off. Where do we go? We need to have a safe and secure place to go. When truckers can't park, it's a major safety issue. Yes, we don't want to be parking on side of highways. We don't want to be parking on the shoulders or on the off-ramps. This is not just about the driver convenience, it's also about the safety concerns. We don't want to congest the traffic. We don't want to bother other people at the same time. Not enough truck parking throughout Lower Mainland. I mean, we all know right now, as if now, we are in a need of about 5,000 truck parking throughout Metro Vancouver. Yes, cities are doing their initiative. They have came up with some parkings, but that's just not enough. That would not accommodate all of us. When trucks can't park, it impacts business bottom line. I mean, if the trucks are not there, businesses are going to get affected. Jobs are going to get affected. Truckers do open up a lot of opportunities, and we do provide employment at the same time. It's not just us, it's so many families that they are connected with us. So these are some of the challenges that we are focusing, that we're going through in today's day. Shortage of legitimate trucking space. Bylaw tickets that we are struggling with at the moment, shortage of parking land, no street parkings available for big rigs. Shortage of parking space. Now, as I said earlier, traditional truck parking sites, most of these truck parking sites, they are being converted into a commercial sites or an industrial sites, or they are building their warehouses. Before, the demand and supply was lower comparatively what today we see. With an increase in the population, the demand is increasing. I mean, if the demand is increasing, there would be more truckers out in the road. And where do all these truckers go? I mean, this is a real issue that we are dealing with, and it's not going to get minimized. Every single day, it's going to increase more and more. So we have to pay attention on this issue, and we have to come up with some sort of solution. I already spoke, we are approximately short of 5,000 truck parking and the staging area. On Highway 17, we did get some 106 parkings, but that's, again, not enough. And now there is already a hustle on that 100 parkings. There is already a hustle going for those parking. We all know. Now, with the bylaw infractions, these are very heavy fines that we are facing on everyday basis. It's not $100, it's not $50, not $200. We are being fined up till $900 per day. I mean, we get 3 tickets on a daily basis, $500, $300, and $100. And this is on a daily basis. It's a very heavy fine that we are paying, and we're looking for some sort of solution here. Not enough room to dispute. When these tickets show up in our mail, they are already like 10 days to 12 days when we see them, when we get in our mail. And by the time we open up and by the time we get our tickets on our table, we don't have enough time to even dispute those tickets. It's 14 days. We got to dispute it within 14 days. And most of my tickets were over 14 days, and I didn't have enough time to even dispute them. collection actions. And yeah, well, I mean, if we don't dispute it, if we don't pay it, yeah, it's going into a collection, going on our personal records, and we are screwing our record. We are not criminals. We are business people. We're just doing our job, serving a community and trying to make a living there. No alternatives, no directions. When we see bylaw officers coming into our property, we do talk to them. And they do realize that, yes, there is a legitimate parking issue. They would sympathize with us. They would see our struggle. They would talk to us. But end of the day, they are binded and they can't help us. End of the day, they would issue us a ticket and walk away saying, park your trucks elsewhere. And that's the end of the conversation. It's just one-way conversation. Doesn't matter how much we try to explain, it just doesn't go anywhere. Shortage of parking land. Now, for the truck parking lands, I don't know how feasible it would be for truckers to buy a commercial land or to get into industrial land. It's just not feasible. These lands are, I mean, per acre is going over, don't hold on to my statement, but 5 million to 7 million, somewhere around, depending where you are getting these kind of lands, right? So getting and parking trucks into a commercial properties and industrial properties in today's market is just not feasible with the whole real estate scenario that's going around. And last but not the least, no street parking is available whatsoever. I mean, we are densely populated here, and the city has been expanding. And city is coming up with all the plans for the residentials, commercials, for the industrial developments, but we are always been overlooked. There is no plans for truckers. We don't know where to go. Where are we going to park? I mean, are we going to park our loaded truck and trailers with a cargo of 300,000 to 500,000 on the street there, having it all stealed away? I don't know. I mean, if that's a feasible solution to park a fully loaded electronic trailer on the street for 2 days, 3 days, that sounds scary. And of course, there is also high consequences for unauthorized or unsafe parking. We already talked about it. We don't want to park unsafely where we are obstructing anybody's way, or we don't want to impede the traffic at the same time. So we are seeking for some safe parking places within Langley. And to summarize my presentation, again, we are seeking for parking for our big rigs. And I am trying to figure out where is this elsewhere where we take our place. Every single time I talk to everybody, we are being said, just park your trucks elsewhere. Where is this elsewhere? We are still struggling to find this elsewhere. Please help us out. We want to work with it. We want some feasible solution to this problem. And please do not overlook this problem. It is a growing problem. I mean, we need some kind of solution to it.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
So I appreciate the importance of the issue. It gave you 9 minutes, almost 10, given that you haven't delegated on the issue before, and the importance of the issue, and give you a chance to be heard. I'll have a few comments here in a second.
Yeah.
Councillor Ferguson, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, thank you, Mr. Mann, for coming in. Probably the questions for anybody in I guess, the trucking business, the delegations today. I guess in Langley, we were caught up by two things, our local government and also Agricultural Land Commission and Land Commission regulations and requirements. And of course, that goes down to the right to farm as well. You know, if they have a farmland, you don't want trucks there where they should be farming. Okay, but it comes down to, I have been wondering, I always wonder, I spent a lot of time up by the ports, right? And I was just wondering if there's it seems like a lot of land around the ports. Is there any parking available around the land?
So I had called myself all the parking lots in Abbotsford, within Langley, within Surrey, I might have called, I don't know, for God's sake, more than 15 parking places. I couldn't find parking place anywhere. They were all packed, they were all full. Whoever you call to, I mean, I'm not just saying up in an air. You guys can even have somebody call and try, and you would not find any parking place anywhere. I'm not sure about the Delta area there. I'm talking about Abbotsford, Langley, and Surrey. I tried doing my homework here.
Well, we always call ourselves south of the Fraser. So,
Yeah.
because I know those areas by the ports very, very well. And there's a huge strip of land there between the road and the railroad track that, could be parking. I mean, it'd be overnight, obviously, but I mean, it's for parking. You want to park it. The next question is, we're very close, and we're Surrey Langley, on 192nd up by the Campbell Heights. I've always wondered about that. They're employment lands parks. Now, there's many, many, many kilometers of basically open roads there in front of their warehouses. Is there overnight parking for those type of vehicles there?
The other problem that we face is it's even if you park on a daytime or let's say overnight parking, somebody needs to be present in a truck there. I mean, when these truckers, when they come out after doing a 7 days or 10 days trip, they gotta go home for at least a day or 36 hours off that we normally do by law. So they cannot leave their truck and trailer unattended because, of course, it's not safe, secure places where we're trying to park. Empty truck and trailer, understood, but with loaded trailers, we can't have it even leave for 5 minutes on the street. So it needs to be secure. There has to be a facility where a driver could actually go and take a time, refresh himself, and stretch their legs. That's another issue too.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
And in a conclusion, I would just say, sir, we're doing our essential service. We're bringing food, everything across the border. We're running within a state, across the state. In return, all we're getting is a full of basket with tickets. That's all I would say. So please do consider.
Presumably, you're getting more than just tickets for the transport. But yes, I think your point is well taken. Councillor Van Popda, go ahead.
Can you speak to me about the North Surrey Park, truck park that just opened up within the last month?
Yeah.
I didn't quite understand. It sounded like you had issues with it, or that there was some
We
sort of
didn't have
scam
issue,
going with it, or.
We didn't have issue. The local trucking, the local owner operators there, they're trying to catch up onto those parkings and trying to park their trucks for overnights and for the daytime too. But for the long haul truck drivers, when they come in, if somebody's coming in after 7 days or 10 days, yes, we can go there, try to park it there, but 100 parkings, I'm pretty sure it would not be available. The parking would not be just there to park for a day or two or for 3 days.
Yeah, so because I drive by it multiple times a week, and so far within the past month, I've seen 4 trucks in there. But I do notice that there's weird restrictions that it's only for 24 hours maximum, which I would assume is an issue.
Correct.
I did notice that there's security guards on hand, so that would make it easy.
It's a safe place.
It's a safe place for you at least to be able to park, go home, go to sleep.
Temporary.
Yeah, for temporary. But whose jurisdiction is that parking lot to address those hours of only 24 hours, especially if it's not being maximized already?
It would fall under Surrey jurisdiction.
It's Surrey's Park and Ride?
Yeah.
Okay. Because, it just seemed odd to me because it's not being utilized. You would think that if there's that much of a demand on a major highway, it's not being utilized.
Nobody has a full control. I mean, nobody have their, those are the parking available by the city, right?
It's the
So
city, okay.
nobody can say that I want to park this and this is my parking spot or this is my parking spot. So it's open for everybody. Whoever goes there parks there first, right? And if you find a spot, you park it. If you don't find a spot, you again get to the spin and go find yourself and park somewhere else. And the problem is, doesn't matter where you go, you could only park temporarily for like hour. Yeah, that parking is basically is made for the highway truckers. Mm-hmm. But the problem that now is happening is the local dump trucks and other trucking or other truckers, I'm not saying good or bad, but they want to take an opportunity and park it there.
Okay, I see the
The
challenges
idea was
there.
to do it for the highway truckers, but yeah.
Is there any municipality within British Columbia or Canada that you know of that is operating truck parking effectively for this type of usage for the local who needs to park for the weekend because they're home, not just like the highway truckers like the North Surrey one would operate under, but is there any municipal? Have you ever come across a parking lot that's operated well and fills the needs of what you're looking for that we could mirror to?
I don't recall any of that. No, I don't recall.
So you don't know of anything that's working effectively yet?
Not really.
Okay, good, thank you.
Yeah, I want to thank you for your delegation. I had a couple of questions. The 5,000 spots, spaces need that you mentioned, what's the source for that?
It's the Canadian Trucking Association. Yeah, the Canadian Trucking Association, we came up with this survey where it says there is a need of 5,000 truck parking as if now, today's date.
Okay,
Yeah.
so what I might do then, I see we have another delegation from the Canadian Trucking Association. Maybe I'll leave my questions for
Yeah,
that
sure.
delegation. Thank you very much for coming here
Yeah.
today.
Okay, thank you.
Next delegation is Onkar Sandar. Did I get that correct?
It's actually Sander. They spell it wrong.
Okay.
So I'm on behalf of Canadian Trucking Association. My name is Onkar Sander.
So I want to make sure I have it correctly. That's Sander, Sander?
DHER, actually.
T-H-E-R. The staff will correct that as well. Thank you. Go ahead.
So, I mean, after pretty much mentioned all the problems we are having, it's the same conversation. I mean, same issue, same, problem we are facing. So all the members in Trucking Association, which is more than 100 now, having more than half of us have a farms and big companies, and the everyday challenge is the parking again. It's the same lack of issue of parking spots, and still can't find a safe place to park. Drivers comes from New York, and which, for example, one of the driver did on the weekend, and the parking you're talking about, we sent him there, and there was no parking, and it's get filled like it was like midnight, right? And so we get yelled by driver as well, and it's hard to find driver, especially good drivers. So it's not a one issue we're addressing. So it's caused many others with this. We still we're still getting tickets. We're still getting harassed by I would call harassment by city bylaw officers. Every minute, every day, we have to look for what's in the yard. It's 3 trucks, and this guy is coming. We are we're trying to calculate all the things, but we can't. We can't make a growth. This load came from all the way from Montreal. It's it's all frozen food, and we can't leave it on the street. As after mentioned, yes, there's a couple streets over there, but it says no parking all over on 192. One company used to park at 192 and 24 corner. There was about, I would say, over 200 trucks, 300 trucks parked, and that property turned into a commercial lands as well. So it's not this building. So all 300 trucks got kicked out, and where did they go? We all can assume where did they go, right? So it's still same issues, same challenges we face every day, and we will face until it gets resolved, or solution was like all we ask for bylaw city, give us some break until we find some kind of solution. We are 100% willing to work with you guys. As last meeting, Amit all mentioned, any chemicals or anything we're concerned about the air, land, destroying air or land, we're not doing. It's our land too. We paid for it. We paying taxes on it. We want to keep those land keep clean and clear. And any land we bought in past year for personal issue, of course, but we bought the land. We brought into, for example, Golden Express bought this land on 216 and almost 224? 227 corner. I'm sure everybody's seen that land before he bought it. It was piece of, it was. You wouldn't want to walk into that property. It was like that. So he improved that land, spending $100,000 and $100,000 on it, and all he's getting are tickets for it, right? It's still under improvement. This is all we do. We are making this country. We want to keep this country moving forward, and we're a big part of it. We're a big part of it, and we will be. We're not going anywhere. We're not quitting trucking. We might take our business somewhere else if this is the way it's going to be. But we love BC. We want to stay in BC, and we want to work with you guys.
Great. Thank you very much for your presentation. I did want to follow up on those questions. So the 5,000 spaces, what's the source of that number?
So we, as I mentioned, we has over 100 companies in association. So we did kind of in-house our survey, and all the companies combined trucks are more than that. But whatever we have right now, whatever we're working with, and there's another local companies associations. We talk to them as well, and they all combined. It's over that. It's the survey combined under the companies. We had meetings.
Okay. All right. So that's the estimated need based upon
Estimated, yeah.
surveying your membership.
Yeah.
All right. At 20 trucks per acre, roughly, that works out to about 250 acres. Any suggestions on where this 250 acres would come from?
As you mentioned, there's Elder Grove. On last meeting, you mentioned there's a land. And of course, we're not assuming it's going to be overnight thing, right? Mm-hmm. So we understand that. We work with you guys, but city need to understand that for our parking needs, it's not going to be overnight as well. So it's like, we're parking in the farms, right? We're getting tickets. So until we figure out that, all we want is the permits, like park the trucks into our land, what we pay for a monthly and a yearly tax.
Yeah, so I'm going to come to the farmland issue, I think, in a minute. But I just wanted to confirm there, is there any thought from the association's perspective that the Township of Langley, 75% restrictions within the agricultural land reserve, is not the municipality that can come up with 250 acres? That there may be other solutions throughout the region, other municipalities that have an urban land base. Vancouver, for example. I've never seen such urban sprawl as you'll see in Vancouver. But in the Township of Langley, we are 75% restricted from developing these agricultural lands. And a lot of people, including myself, believe in that structure. So, is there the expectation that the 250 acres that you're looking for to be phased in is going to have to come from somewhere else, because the Township of Langley just doesn't have that kind of urban land supply?
And these 5,000 trucks, we're not talking about just the Langley. It's all over the Lower Mainland, right? So it can be all regions, like a problem too, right? At which, like Surrey, Delta, Abbotsford, Emmett had meeting with them, and they've been pretty lenient. Like, they were pretty soft on the parking on the farmlands until they find it any permanent solution for it.
Yeah, so that would be their decision to make. I think that'll be up to council whether it wants to not enforce agricultural land and the zoning bylaw for council, whether it wants to change some policies around that. It'll be up to council to do that. Whether there's going to be no enforcement on farmland being used as truck parks, that would be a council decision. Yeah, so but I understand that that's what you're looking for, and there's a perception perhaps that others are doing that. Yeah,
that's why we're here, like, just for council to help us, and and it's again, like, since last meeting, I would end up what has been done by Township of Langley, if anything, any improvement, because we're still getting ticket and bylaw officers are still knocking our doors.
Yeah, and that would be a council decision. I think the challenge is that, of course, does the township allow for essentially truck parking on farmland in contravention of the Agricultural Land Commission's regulations and the Township Land zoning bylaw? If the council wishes to no longer pursue that enforcement, that again would be a council decision.
It's still a black spot for everyone. Like, when we come to you guys, we get that, and we did have a meeting with the ALR. We have a meeting coming up 17. Yeah. With the ALR too.
And if you're meeting further with the province, I think it would be great to highlight that this needs to come from a regional or provincial level for a solution. No individual municipality, especially this one, is going to find 250 acres. So where is the land supply going to come from if there isn't a regulatory change? because it's going to be very challenging for the township to make much more progress than say 20 or 30 or 40 acres. Even that would be challenging. And so, if don't allow the province to get off the hook saying they're creating some truck parking at 264th interchange, because as we've seen in other municipalities, that ends up being an RV park for the unhoused. That is also not going to solve your problem unless they have a policy change at their level. So I think there's a lot of challenges with this issue from top to bottom, and I think delegating here is an option because it's an option. Going to Victoria is where the solution is going to lie. That's my opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll take the trucks there.
If you're going to organize something like that, please let Mayor Locke and I know, because we support change to find a solution at the regional or provincial level, because we're going to struggle as a municipality at 75% farmland and very little urban land left for employment or industrial development. There's also very little. There's actually probably less than this number you're looking for in total. And so the solution is not, in my opinion alone, is not going to come from within the Township of Langley.
We totally agree. All we're asking is the township do its part for the local truckers here who reside here. We're working with Surrey, we're working with Delta, we're working with Abbotsford. We have a meeting with the Deputy Minister of Agriculture and the Secretary to the Agriculture Minister on Wednesday. So we are going all in with every possible solution for this.
And I would involve Metro Vancouver in that advocacy as well.
We had a meeting with Mayor Harvey in Delta, so that's, he's going to take it on the metro level.
And
So
Minister Fleming with the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure, because they have a lot of land which they're choosing not to use for this issue, right?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
So we are trying to, work everything, but the issue is we are not able to focus on business, getting things done. But being penalized, and that's because Surrey has kind of given a letter of support for which I mentioned to you in our meeting previously as well. Delta is very supportive, so is Abbotsford. So if all the cities on the local level, if we can get you guys on our side, then we can tell the province that, hey, if the municipalities understand this problem, why you guys not understanding it?
Yeah, and I would just highlight for yourselves too, there's a number of temporary use permits that are advancing very quickly through the system to increase the truck parking supply within the township outside of the public sector. The challenge for the Township of Langley is we don't have a $1 billion budget similar to Surrey. We don't have the urban land supply of a Surrey. We can't just go and buy 100 acres for you and make it a truck park at a cost of $200 million or $300 million or whatever Surrey can afford. And so it's very challenging for us. But support and trying to weigh in with your advocacy efforts is no problem at all. And the agricultural farm issue, I believe, is a challenge for the community with the expectation that farmland is for farming, it is not for truck parking.
The thing is, trucking is agri-support industry. We cannot be looked outside of agriculture. All these things, these are grown in the farmland, brought to our table. So we are part of the food chain, system as well. So looking at it, from outside of the agri is where the problem is.
And
so we're not parking dump trucks. We have our own, we are very integral part of the food supply system that we have over here. We depend on it.
And that's the basis for the 3 trucks per lot, I believe, that are permitted.
Which is old because it's from the 1950s, and we have grown. So that law needs to evolve. That's, our position on that.
I understand. So I'm going to move on, let other members of council. Councilor Pratt, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. And I don't think anybody thinks it's a simple solution, for sure. It's going to be a long time coming. But when we talk about the truck parking that used to be allowed on the street out in Surrey, in Campbell Heights, is something similar allowed out in Gloucester, in the township, near Highway 1?
There are one street, I think, you're talking about on 264 Gloucester Street.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always full because all the outside carriers that come from the deliveries, you can never find a car spot actually over there.
And is that a place that obviously it won't solve the problem, but it could chip away at some of the stall requirements?
It could be do as temporarily, stay, 5, 6, 8 hours, whatever, but it's not going to solve the problem.
So what it's not going to solve is truckers from the township who go out 5 days, 6 days at a time. When they come back home, they need 2 days rest.
36.
You cannot spot
36
hours
hours to be exact. Yeah,
that's the trouble.
Yeah, and I think that's a whole other issue that the township, as the mayor's been pointing out, probably won't be able to solve ourselves. But if there are some smaller issues that we can chip away at, I think it's worth having that conversation about. So even if it's a few dozen stalls that help hours at a time, then I think it's worth something to look into. So appreciate it. Thank you.
Councilor Martins?
Thank you, and thank you for coming today. I'm just trying to wrap my head around needing the 5,000 stalls across the region, as you mentioned. Is that all simultaneously parking? Because I know that your industry is on the move, very fluid. Is there a requirement for, at any given time, 5,000 trucks?
There is approximately that, because again, it's not just, we don't have a set number of trucks and trailers that come in every night. If everybody was to come in every night, we'd probably need more than 5,000.
Okay.
The need in that case would be in, tens of thousands, of spots. But because most of the truckers, once they pick up a freight, load from here, they're out on the road for multiple days at a time. Mm-hmm. So that's the reason the number is still lower.
Yeah, okay.
But if everybody was coming here, we'll be looking at, 15, 20,000 spots that will be needed.
All right. No, thank you for that clarification. And then the other question I have is with regards to your mail basket being full of bylaw tickets. Just so I understand how that works, if you have 4 trucks parked on your land where you're permitted to have 3, is each truck ticketed, like all 4 of them, or is it just the one, the overage, that the fines are received for? Do you know?
We get these in the mail, so we really don't know how the bylaw officer is enforcing them.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. It is a large issue requiring a lot of layers of government. I'm glad to hear that you are speaking to the ALC in a couple days. I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you. You're probably feeling a bit beaten up on with the complaints and the challenges that we have, and I just want to acknowledge your industry. Yeah, the food security, keeping goods on the move. Everything I'm looking at here, I wouldn't have in front of me if it wasn't for trucks bringing products to where they need to go. And so, if I know that's probably small words considering what you're addressing, but I didn't want that to go without saying, and I really do appreciate the work that you all do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Richter?
Yes, thank you. I have 3 questions here. Number 1, how many Langley truckers are there? You said you had a membership of 100. How many of those members are from Langley?
I think it's over 25, 26.
26. Okay, and those 26 truckers, how many trucks do they own?
I think it's probably 1 to 50. So not everyone has the same amount of trucks. There's we're just talking about the members, and there's other farmers, other truckers, which they're owner operators, which they park 1, 2, 3 trucks into their land. Those are not even added.
I'm worried about the Langley trucks.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about the Langley
Okay.
too. There's
So
multiple others,
You have 26 members. How many of those?
approximately.
Okay, how many of those 26 Langley members would own 50 trucks?
Not many, but 100% more than 5 to 10 trucks.
So we're all small companies. Yeah.
Okay, 5 to 10
All
trucks.
small companies,
Okay, and the last question I have, I see that you guys are part of this Canadian Truckers Association. What is your relationship with the BC Truckers Association?
So they're a different body.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why and how?
They have been, in existence for a very long time.
Yeah.
And we formed this association back in 2018 because we wanted a space for our own voices to be heard. So outside of the BCTA, because we felt, their goals and, their advocacy wasn't aligning with what our needs were.
Okay, because the BC Truckers Association, which is located here in Langley,
Right.
is a very effective lobbying association. I mean, the Portman Bridge was redone because of their efforts.
Right.
Do you think that there might be an opportunity for you to join forces with them?
We have had a meeting so we met in Abbotsford, where Abbotsford was doing our truck parking strategy study.
Yeah.
So we met over there, and we have plans to, meet and work with them together in the future.
Yeah,
on this as well.
I highly recommend that because they know what they're doing when it comes to advocacy. Yeah.
I agree. We are more of a, business oriented, we are working first and then, spending our own personal time to this cause.
Oh, no, but
Yeah,
the
and
BC
they have
Truckers
a- yeah,
Association,
yeah.
I mean, their membership is just like your membership,
Yes.
people who own trucks.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Councilor Ferguson?
Well, yeah, again, thank you for coming in. I think everybody in this room realizes the importance of what you folks do. I mean, so I'm also very interested in finding solutions to your problems. I don't know if waiving tickets going to solve problems for people doing illegal uses, which are not you guys. That's lots of other people are having auto shots, other things that they do illegal. I say that there's also, as you look along Highway 1, we're doing all that construction.
Right.
They're parking their trucks and their equipment somewhere. I know there's a number of exits off there as you drive along. I think there's an old gravel pit that we had in Langley that's being used all the time for that. Once those guys are gone, finish that construction, I would say label those parks, talk to your MLA, talk to the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure, talk to them and find out what's available after they're gone. That's one. Second thing, you've already talked to the province. Yes. You've already talked to the region and all us local guys that have all the solutions, including international war. There, we know everything, right? We get everybody asking questions on everything. The federal government owns land.
Yes.
They own a lot of land. And it's not agricultural land. So if you could go to them and maybe they can maybe free up some of their for parking, that would be good. And it'd probably be something could be done straightforward rather than you don't have to put up big buildings or anything like that. There's 1,100 acres up by Aldergrove. That's federal land. It's close to the freeways, it's close, and it wouldn't be an impact on folks' residential areas. I'm not sure, I'm not saying they'll give you 250, but they might be able to give you something. Mm-hmm. Just talk to your member of parliament and talk to those people, because I'm sure, surely to goodness, I've been saying that for many things. Anyway.
They point the finger back to the local government and they say, these are the people who are going to, make it happen. So that's
well, all of us eat. Don't tell them. All of us eat. All of us use it. So no more finger pointing. They can solve the problem.
Well, see, the trouble is, they just point the finger back to you guys. And, because we live here in this community, this is where, our, families are, this is, the place we serve, right? But, end of the day, when we get, these tickets, that is heartbreaking, and that is what needs to stop till this thing is fixed. We're not trying to break anything. We are in a broken system, and we're being penalized for the broken system. That's what it is. So I think council can easily do that till a solution is found.
We don't own the land. That's a lot of land. We do not own that land.
No, we don't want the 250 acres from you itself, right? We're just saying to, give us a break till actual solution is found. And that is what we're asking every municipality, not just Langley. Everybody.
Councillor Impopta?
So are you asking us to not enforce ALC guidelines and bylaws and our own bylaws while this is being resolved?
What we're saying is, form a task force, come out with the solutions. Till the solution is found, give us a break. Also, I can tell you that there's a lot of, like doubts in enforcing this. Like, for example, in Langley, in the township of Langley, even if you have a container on your farm, it's considered a commercial vehicle. It's not on wheels. Doesn't have an engine to move from A to B. Even that is considered as a commercial vehicle. I had to give the bylaw officer an email from the ALC stating that they do not consider a container as a commercial vehicle, and I'm using it for storage. So that's how the thin line, this thin line is. So am I dealing with, explaining that to the bylaw officer? I had to do that, right? So until this problem is resolved, right, we can only come and highlight, what is going on. And then we expect you guys to either form a task force or also to reach out to the province on your level as well, as we are doing, to say, hey, this is a problem in our community. What are you guys doing about it? Simple.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for your delegations.
All right, thank you.
Next delegation is C4, Christine Bishop. Please don't come on forward.
Am I supposed to put up the PowerPoint or someone else will? Okay, I don't see it here. Oh, maybe. Okay, no, thanks. Good afternoon, Mayor Woodward and councilors. I've lived in Langley for over 20 years.
I'm a board member with the Little Campbell Watershed Society, and I'm a biologist. And I'm here on behalf of the Little Campbell Watershed Society and their long-term concerns about water volume, quality, biodiversity, and preservation and restoration of natural green space and its accessibility for people in Langley. So looking at this first slide here, I wanted to put it in to remind us that our organization, and I hope you as councillors and mayor, take the Salish Sea perspective and remind ourselves that the actions that we take locally here in Langley are important to the health of the Salish Sea. You've heard us speak before about the stressors to the Little Campbell River, and one of the few rivers that are left in Metro Vancouver, which still supports salmon. I'd like to draw your attention to the importance of the impact of impervious surfaces and how quickly fish and wildlife disappear as we pave and cut trees in the watershed, especially near rivers. The case in point here is a site that's commonly known as Horn Pit. It's located at the northern apex of the river and central to the Brookswood Aquifer. Maintaining the site without impervious surfaces means more water for aquifer and more water for farms and wildlife. Prior to the 1960s, this site was a forest and a floodplain besides the Little Campbell River. And a gravel pit extraction operation created large excavations that subsequently have filled with water due to the high water table. And these wetlands are now an important reservoir for the river. And all the proposals that have been floated for the future of Horn Pit, the wetlands are there on the map, but they've been surrounded by urban development that is full of impervious surfaces, when what the wetlands really need is to be surrounded with a nurturing forest and understory. So you heard this before, but the reason I'm here today is that last year, this is the map that we saw coming out of the official Fernridge Neighborhood Land Use Plan. And despite the many public requests, polls in support of 100% of the Horn Pit site as a park, numerous delegations over the last 10 years, despite community tree and native tree and shrub plantings that took place at Horn Pit when the site was planned as a park adjacent to a school, the plan for the Horn Pit remains as it is on the books like this. So this was published and accepted by the council. But a lot has changed in the last year. And one of the things that has changed, the Watershed Society was really pleased to see that the township took an active interest in this area and has acquired a large acreage adjacent to the river just south of Horn Pit. So it's literally a stone's throw away from the southern border of Horn Pit. So we interpret this as very supportive of biodiversity, health of the river, but we're wondering how it will fit into the broader protection picture, the uplands of the actual Horn Pit property. Furthermore, I'd like to commend the township on the fact that they have been forward-thinking in the stormwater pond that's located directly across the street from Horn Pit. And they put extensive native plantings in there around the stormwater pond. Right now, the Oregon grape is in bloom. And so I can see that when the township embraces this sort of thing, they're doing a pretty good job. And as we all know, that in 2023, the township approved the site for a new fire hall, which is needed in the area. The site was selected and it's now been initiated just recently on the southern section of the land. This is very adjacent to the river, and there's a very thin remaining riparian zone there in the first place, but recently more than 60 mature trees were cut down for the siting of the fire hall. First of all, I'd like to know how this will be compensated within the Horn Pit plan in the future, which brings me to the fact that basically the Watershed Society and others are feeling like the township is listening, but only to a point, and there's not a lot of flow back and forth in terms of information on the future of the site, despite the public interest in the site as a park. For example, this hall was sited at a location that's in south of the road that's there right now, that cuts through the middle of, not the middle, but it cuts through the Horn Pit, but it's probably at the top third of the site. But this is sited at a location close to the river and probably the lowest point of the landscape and probably closest to the water table. And this is despite the fact that when asked, professionals provided an alternate siting that is to scale, where this site could have been put north of the so-called road that's at the site. Now, that's all water under the bridge, so to speak. But the point is that we're feeling like the township's not really listening when they ask for alternative ideas or things that might really work and would still be beneficial for the community and the fire hall. So, leading up to this meeting, with the support of Councillor Bailey, and we appreciate it very much, members of the board have had the opportunity to visit the site in recent months. And we have questions, but we also have a vision for the site. So we'd like to see the southern portion of the lands develop. But there's lots of activity going on in Horn Pit. And again, not a lot of information flow about what is actually going on at this site. And just for a few photos, recent photos, for those of you who haven't been at the site, I'm told that there's some of the pits that have been dug there to determine the level of environmental contamination, which suggests to us that perhaps what was brought in there was never tested in the first place, which is unfortunate. And some more, I guess, pits for contamination monitoring. Seems like the township is pretty active monitoring the beaver activity in the wetlands. And we have concerns with this. I mean, even though it's good to be on top of this sort of thing, what I did notice when I was at the site recently was one of the wetlands seems to be becoming essentially a terrestrial site. It's filling in with alders and other vegetation, and the water level is dropping. And so, you know, essentially we're losing wetland for flood control perhaps, but again, there doesn't seem to be a lot of flow of information about what's going on here. So, since there's not the flow that we necessarily like, we'd just like you to take a look at some ideas about what the site could be. You know, suggesting something very similar to Latimer Park to the west of it. Wetlands that have viewing platforms, trails through the site in the south end, and something developed north of it that would be more community-oriented. But not necessarily a park, but something that would be, let's just say, complementary to a park. So what I'm here today to ask is whether or not the council would consider establishing some kind of public advisory committee that would work with staff, interact with them, considering, again, the public support for the idea of having a park there, just to have more information on what is actually going on at the site, and working towards something that means not only trails here, but perhaps a bigger vision for trail connections, both on the Surrey side, but also on the Langley side. And wondering if this is something that the council would consider. Thank you.
Thank you. Not seeing any questions to council. Thank you for your presentation.
I just have one more slide. I forgot, but I just wanted to remind you that these beloved parks here in Metro Vancouver are all established on either old quarries or industrial sites, or in the case of Everett Crowley Park, on a landfill site. And so I just want to say that, you know, this vision for Horn Pit, when you see those photos that I showed recently, they look like nothing will ever grow there. But this is the sort of thing that we could develop as a real jewel here in South Langley. Thanks.
Now I have a question. Councillor Bailey, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Christine. We've had a few walks through there, and every time I go through there, it's really informative, and you guys are patient with my dumb questions. So I kind of like the idea of having some kind of a vehicle where we can discuss how to go forward. We've discussed how to get water down into the aquifer and all those kind of things. So, yeah, I'd like to talk to some other councillors and the mayor and yourselves, and yeah, see if we can come up with some kind of body where you guys can help us form this park.
Thank you.
Great. Not seeing any other questions. I appreciate your presentation today.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we're going to go to item E1, development permit application 101366. Anybody wish to move that? Moved by Councillor Rent. Seconded by Councillor Bailey. Councillor Pratt, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I appreciate the fact that it's back, and I appreciate the fact that the architect took time with staff to try and actually articulate the vision behind it. We asked if there could be anything that was done about the design, the tree preservation. It's a shame that we can't do anything more about the existing tree canopy, but I understand that the proponent is endeavoring to increase the size of the replacement trees, so I do appreciate that. Personal preferences of what architecture is aside, I don't necessarily have a problem with the project that's bringing homes, jobs, businesses to downtown Brookswood. So it's right on transit, it's close to amenities. I do hope that the proponent will try and make the effort to attract some tenants there that'll actually live up to the architect's vision of trying to make this a pedestrian-friendly, walkable addition to Brookswood. And so just wanted to thank staff for their work with the proponent on this.
Yeah, great to echo most of that. Seeing no other discussion, call the question on E1. That carries with Councillor Richter opposed. Item E2, Winery Lounge and Special Event Area Endorsement Application Number 00064. I believe, Councillor Rent, did you wish to declare a conflict of interest? Yes, you did. Ms. Bauer, Councillor Rent is declaring a conflict of interest of another kind. Does anybody wish to move that? Moved by Councillor Ferguson, seconded by Councillor Bailey. Is there any discussion on E2? Councillor Martins.
Thank you. I just want to acknowledge that there were items in today's distribution list, items number 11 through 13. No, sorry, items 1 through 3. And I read through those letters, and I noticed there were some concerns about potential noise impacts to the neighbors. I just would appreciate some clarification from staff if we were to go ahead with this endorsement. What sort of comfort or confidence do those people have with regards to potential noise implications?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through Councillor Martins, the Township's noise bylaw would prevail in that regard. Supplement there, the application not dissimilar from other applications we've seen, but council has considered another sort of occasions hours of service differences or working with proponents on items in that regard.
Thank you. So it is an existing business looking to expand. I believe it's a winery already in place. I'm just curious if there has been any sort of complaints through our bylaws until now with this business.
Through your worship to Councillor Martins, there currently hasn't been any complaints filed or investigations regarding the winery in consideration.
Okay, thank you very much.
Councillor Richter?
Yes, I had a question for staff. They have a seating of 50. They want to go to 150 for special events. And I'm assuming the special events are probably weddings because they refer to weddings in their comments in here. How many special events are they allowed to have a license for in a year?
Through your worship to Councillor Richter, the special event license pertains to the liquor control branch endorsements. In terms of weddings and other events, that's governed by that, and I believe the current regulation is no more than 10 in the land reserve.
So is this a land, ALR land?
Through your worship, that's correct. However, the ALR does allow for what currently has been noted is a manufacturer's license with a tasting room currently. So the current item in front of council is for a lounge endorsement, including a patio, as well as a special event area.
Okay. And Councillor Martins raised the issue of noise. I think there was the letters that came in referenced that as well as parking, but the noise being cut off at, I guess it's going to be 11 p.m. And they also referenced that they are never advised when special events are going to be happening. Is there a mechanism for council to require that if we support this, that the neighbors must be given notification of the events?
Through your worship, Councillor Richter, the endorsement by council is quite specific as outlined in the resolution provided. In the past, council has provided some language back to the branch indicating that some other items should be considered by the proponent. Council's sphere of influence in that regard does not extend to a requirement for sending those items to neighbors.
Okay. Can it be extended to requiring neighbors be notified?
It can be requested, but not required.
It can be requested but not required. Okay, thank you.
Right, seeing so and no other discussion, I call the question on E2. That carries. Councillor Richter opposed. Can we get Councillor Rent back, please? Okay, item E3, 2024 Nuisance Mosquito Control Program Update. I'll move the recommendation. It's seconded by Councillor Rent. Any discussion on E3? Councillor Richter.
Yes, I see that we have a budget of this for $54,845, of which in 2023, $47,100 was expended. How much additional money is going to be added to this base budget? Because I couldn't find that in the report.
Thank you, Your Worship. To Councillor Richter, the exact amount is to be determined still. As outlined in the report, the new contractor has a bit of an expanded program. So we are going to be tracking costs for this year, and then any surplus or any additional requested funding would be submitted in 2025. With respect to an estimate, staff anticipate between $10,000 and $30,000 extra as part of next year's budget process.
Okay,
Again,
and will we review that next? Well, I guess if we're going to put this in for this year, will we review it again in 2026?
Thank you, Your Worship. If endorsed by council, staff will make it a base item in 2025. That could be revisited on an annual basis.
Okay, thank you.
Seeing no other discussion, I'll call the question on E3. Carries unanimously. Item E4, capital request for Braun Pump Station. I'll move it. Is there a second? Or seconded by Councillor Rent. Any discussion on E4? Seeing none, I'll call the question on E4. Carries unanimously. G1, bylaws for first, second, and third reading. Rezoning application number 100619. Moved by Councillor Ferguson, seconded by Councillor Rent. Any discussion on G1? Seeing none, call the question on G1. Carries unanimously. Item G2, rezoning application number 100700 for 55 townhouse units. Moved by Councillor Bailey, seconded by Councillor Rent. Is there any discussion on G2? Seeing none, call the question on G2. That carries unanimously. Bylaws for final adoption. Township of Langley notice bylaw number 6003. Moved by Councillor Rent. Seconded by Councillor Bailey. Is there any discussion on I1? Councillor Richter.
Yeah. So does this bylaw now eliminate all newspaper ads?
I believe it's the same question you asked the third reading, but Ms. Bauer, go ahead. Yep.
It does no longer requires newspaper ads, as we are aware that the newspaper landscape is changing rapidly. We are going to continue running one ad prior to the council meeting with the public notice as a added value benefit.
Okay. So it has the potential, though. I mean, we're going to continue with present practice, but there is a potential that the newspaper ads get cut off because they're no longer included in this bylaw.
Yes, in the future, there is that potential, but that is not our intention at this time.
Okay, and who makes the call on whether the ads get cut off?
At this point, I expect I'd come back to council on that, as it is a decision regarding publication of public notices. But like I say, at this point, we're making no plans for that.
Okay. All right, I'm very concerned about this because I think it does have the potential to have the newspaper ads completely cut off, which I think is not fair to some segments of the population, particularly the elderly. So I'm not going to support it at final. Thank you.
Yeah, Ms. Bauer, I just want to reiterate, I think it provides you the flexibility to continue without a bylaw update should the local paper cease to exist. So you're not under any policy direction to cease advertisement, nor will you change that at any point in the future, unless there's simply no newspaper to advertise in. Is that correct?
That is the intention this
Yeah,
time.
and I believe you've answered that multiple times. Yeah. Councillor Martins, go ahead.
Thank you. And just wondering, timing-wise, with regards to the new way of doing things electronically, is that already in place? Is it ready to roll, or is there going to be a bit of a delay in that?
No, once the bylaw's passed, it becomes what we have to do, and we have worked with staff to ensure that it will be a smooth transition.
Great, so we've got the framework in place to roll.
We do.
Perfect, thank you.
Call the question on I-1. That carries with Councillor Richter opposed. I-2, I'll move that, seconded by Councillor Rent. Is there any discussion on I-2? Okay, I have an amendment. Ms. Bauer, believe I'd want to maybe consider an amendment. The effective date for the changes of the fees and charges is when, just for council's information?
As I understand it, the effective date is when it is adopted by council. If we are inquiring about the recreation.
That's correct.
In talking with other staff, I believe they generally time theirs with the beginning of September, but I don't work in recreation, so I'm not positive.
So I think that the concern was I don't think council was under that impression. I certainly would like to see the changes made for, especially the seniors pass, which was the largest one, and some other adjustments be sooner than that. So I have an amendment to move that the effective date for changes to Schedule 17, Recreation, Arts, and Culture are to be effective no later than June 1st. And I've confirmed that that's doable. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Rint. Is there any discussion on that change amendment? Seeing none, I'll call the question on the amendment to I-2. That carries unanimously. Now back to I-2 as amended. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question on I-2. Oh, hold on. Somebody wanted, Councillor Richter, go ahead.
Yeah, there's a Mayor Woodward's recommended associated motion. Is that included in what we're adopting here?
That's not an amendment. That's a subsequent motion additionally, similar to a notice of motion pertaining to this item. So it's not an amendment to the bylaw. It's a report. It's a request to report to council.
Okay.
So with that, call a question on I-2 as amended. That carries unanimously. I will move the associated motion to report to council regarding a potential overall reduction in applicable recreation fees to be closer to or more in line with prevailing regional averages with recommendations for council to consider. I'll move that, seconded by Councillor Van Popta. Councillor Richter, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just wondering why this is needed. Are our fees so far out of line with other areas that they need to be reduced?
No, Mr. Backin did a review of this during some considerations of amendments for fees and charges, and it's not for all categories, but some are substantially higher than neighboring municipalities.
So what categories would those be?
Mr. Backin?
I'm going by memory, Your Worship. I think it was some of the admission rates, as you referenced, it was going from some seniors and some youth.
Swimming lessons, annual passes, and so on. Yep.
Yep, exactly, thank you. And I believe that in about 3/4 of the cases, we were higher, I would say marginally higher, but still thought something should be addressed. And this would, I think, give us the information to come back to council with recommendations to meet the average.
And I've had residents request to understand why some facilities and adjacent municipalities are, in their opinion, significantly higher, and this would provide that information for council to look at.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So call a question on that motion under I-2. That carries unanimously. Item I-2, Jericho Water Booster Station Loan Authorization Bylaw. I'll move it. Seconded by Councillor Rent. Any discussion on I-3? Okay, gotta be faster. Councillor Ferguson.
This is amortized over a number of years, if I may, Mr. Mayor?
I believe the amortization on this was 25 years, Ms. Ruff. I think that would be in the bylaw, but. The amortization is specified within the actual bylaw, Councilor Ferguson. I think
Yeah, I know.
I think I can look that
I'm
up
sorry,
here.
but I
I
might
think
have
I can
missed
look
it.
that up here.
That's why I was asking.
I think I can look that up.
Excuse me, Your Worship, it's 20 years.
20 years, there you go.
20 years. Okay, thanks. Sorry about that. Good.
Okay, great, thank you. Call the question on I3. That carries. Councillor Richter opposed. I4, Civic Infrastructure Loan Authorization Bylaw. I'll move it. Seconded by Councillor Rent. Is there any discussion on I4? Seeing none, call the question on I4. That carries. Councillor Richter opposed. Yorkson Community Park Development Loan Authorization Bylaw, I5. I'll move that. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Rent. Councillor Richter.
Yes, so we had 10 new budget borrowing bylaws so far this term for a total of, I believe it's $187 million.
It's more than that, actually.
Well, if you just add up the 10 budget borrowing bylaws that this council has passed, it's 187 million. It's actually slightly less. It's 186.99 million.
Okay, I mean, it's more than that, but it's fine. Go ahead.
Okay, well, when you say more than that, what exactly do you mean? Because you said that last meeting too. Are more borrowing bylaws coming?
Depends how you define approved. So at final, no, but at third reading, advancing with council approval, it's higher than that. I can email it to you. You can just ask me for it. I can email it to you.
Well, I have a list of the borrowing bylaws. I have a list of the total amounts. And it adds up, the list I've been given adds up to 186.99. So I'm curious where these other, when you say it's more, where the more is coming from. So with the adoption of this final bylaw today, how many of the 10 are now completed? That was my question that I wanted to ask. There were 10. How many are now complete?
Mr. Baca? Again, it would depend how you define completed, but go ahead.
I think in terms
I think
of
it's
approval,
3.
Finally adopted. How many are now finally adopted?
that's actually a different question from the previous one, because the ministerial approval is at 3 or 4 by memory. Finally adopted, I think it's probably.
I think it's 3, or no, I think it's 6 or 7 now. I
Or
believe.
7,
Yeah.
yeah.
7. Yeah.
So it's 7 finally adopted,
Here today. Yeah.
but it's only 3 or 2 that have been completed.
I have it as,
I think I have it as 2.
we have it as 2 finally completed with ministerial approval.
Okay, and 2.
And then, of course, we also require Metro Vancouver approval, and only 1 has achieved Metro Vancouver approval at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Ferguson?
Well, yeah, I wanted just to point out, yes, we are spending an awful lot of money, and there's no question about it. I mean, but if you break it down to, what we're spending it on, we just talked about the water is one, soccer, this is the Yorkson Community Park, hockey, ball hockey, parks, other recreational services, roads, major things. And I like to use the example because I know Councilor Richter and I have been on council a while, is if we wouldn't have built the Langley Event Center when we did, I don't even want to ask the staff how much it would be. About 2 or 3 times what it would be. It would be in the millions. And we've got it at a very good price. We got support from the provincial government, amongst others. It's doing well. The same thing goes for the McLeod Athletic Park, the time, money, and effort we put into that, assembling lands for properties, for all sorts of things we've done over the years. And if we didn't put some money aside for things like a community park beside schools and things like that, again, the cost would be that much higher. So it goes on and on and on. If we don't move now and make those decisions that the community wants, then it's all that much more difficult for the future, and frankly, it ends up being impossible to move on expensive items for the future. Anyway, those are my points, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Yeah, I just looked it up. The council has granted third reading approval on principle to a number of bylaws that add up to 485,000. So there's the number. It's not the other number that was referenced. I'll call the question on I-5. No, I'm calling the question, Councillor Richter. That carries with Councillor Richter opposed. Item I-6, official community plan amendment and rezoning application number 100201, bylaw number 5793, 5794, 5803. Is there a mover? Moved by Councillor Rent. Is there a second? Seconded by Councillor Ferguson. Any discussion on I-6? Seeing none, call the question on I-6. That carries unanimously. Item I-7, official community plan amendment, rezoning application number 100224, bylaw number 5888, 5889. Is there a mover? Moved by Councillor Pratt, seconded by Councillor Bailey. Is there any discussion on I-7 rezoning bylaw? No. Call the question on I-7. That carries unanimously. I'll move development permit application number 101297, seconded by Councillor Rint. Is there any discussion on the development permit? Seeing none, I'll call the question on I-7 development permit. Councillor Richter? I guess you don't want to vote. Okay, so that puts you in the affirmative. That carries unanimously. Move on to item J1, DCC front-ending agreement, Mitchell Williams Pond, DWA. I'll move it. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Wren. Is there any discussion on J1? Councillor Pratt.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I just, for clarification's sake, the proponent at a future date, should there be requirements or changes that were required based on the new NP, is still in a position to make those changes, correct?
Mr. Bracken?
That is correct.
And then the timing of having these two now as opposed to waiting until the end of the NP process.
This is returning as it was previously approved by council. There were some concerns about the technical, ability to meet the needs of the catchment area. Staff have had a chance to review that with the qualified professionals and realize that it would be appropriate for council to proceed to, if you will, reinstate this to where it was before, as those technical requirements have been met.
Okay, appreciate the clarification. Thank you.
Councillor Richter?
Okay, so this is J1 that we're on, right?
That's correct.
I would like to move a deferral so staff can verify that the costs are accurate.
Is there a seconder to that? No seconder. Anything else, Councillor Richter?
No.
Call the question on J1. That carries. Councillor Richter opposed. J2, I'll move it. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Wren. Is there any discussion on J2? Councillor Richter.
Yep, I'd like to move a deferral until the Williams plan has received fourth reading.
Is there a seconder? Seeing no seconder. So with that, call the question on J2. That carries. Councillor Richter opposed. Mayor and council report. Does anybody wish to make a report? Councillor Bailey.
Yes, in light of the earlier recognition of the day of mourning, I want to draw attention to right now what's going on. You're seeing the fire chief in Vancouver, Chief Karen Fry, who is acting on a bill that has gone past first reading in Victoria, the Firefighter Protection Act. And that act is detailing the need for firefighters to change their turnout gear. It's called PFAS. These are chemicals that are in the turnout gear that are carcinogenic. And even though this Protection Act has not gone through royal assent or that yet, you're seeing not only Vancouver, who has ordered roughly 200 sets of this gear at well over $2 million, but I'm pleased to say that the Langley Township our senior executive staff and our firefighters have also moved on this, and we've ordered 20 sets of gear. We may possibly be the very first fire department that will get this protection. And as a person who was intimately involved in the start of the presumptive cancers for British Columbia, which is roughly 20, I'm not exactly sure, but about 20 of them now. And personally, as a survivor of 2 recognized cancers from firefighting, I've got to say I am so proud of our fire department senior staff and Local 4550 in taking this immediate action to protect our firefighters. I have challenged the BCPFFA and the FCABC to show me what council has been as strong in advocating for their firefighters and especially for their health and well-being. And I think that the moves that we have made since we were sworn in November of last year or the year before, and bodes well. We have moved ahead in so many aspects of the fire service, actually further and faster than I thought, and I have to thank the mayor and council for the support of this. I know the firefighters have significantly changed the department, and more importantly, the safety to the firefighters and to the safety of the taxpayers. They have increased service, and they have plans that are on the leading edge of fire protection. And I just want to say thank you to the leadership of the Township of Langley Fire Department for protecting not only the taxpayers and citizens of Township, but also of our firefighters, which we are legally bound to ensure a safe workplace, and hopefully there'll be fewer firefighter cancers in the future because of these presumptive moves. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for raising that, Councillor Bailey. I noticed it on Twitter from our partners in Vancouver, and I asked you right away, and of course was pleased to learn that we just didn't think of putting it on Twitter, as opposed to just getting it done.
Our fire chiefs, especially the top 3, the 2 deputies and the fire chief, they prefer to be quietly going about their business, and they are doing it farther and faster than anyone I've ever seen.
Yeah, appreciate that. Councillor Ferguson?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know that I was at the Diking Committee meeting last week, and again, I got to compliment Mr. Zweig and his staff, Aaron Roll and his team, for all the work they do, and they work in conjunction with Abbotsford, and Diking is important, and protection for things like an atmospheric river coming in the future, being prepared for that, or dikes. So they're doing a great job. Mr. Mayor, as you know, we attended last week the Volunteer Appreciation Dinner, one of my favorite events of the year. The 3 awards were given to Flowerdew, Sharon Wood, Pete Swenson, Rantholm Dollywall, and John and Mary Larnerson, Nigel, and Cheryl Tom. And I also I wanted to do some advertising today. On the weekend, all of us involved in the township were picking up volunteer for Clean Up Langley Day. So I wanted to bring that to everybody's attention. If you're a volunteer, you can get one of these pickup things. I have an older one because it's kind of wearing out. I use it quite a bit. And they give you a vest. An organization could do it. You could be Scout, Cubs. It could be Guides. It could be soccer or athletic team. Anybody's or individuals. So anybody who wants to help out either one day or one day a week or every day, or come out once in a while. But help keep Langley clean. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's my presentation.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Anybody wish to make a mayor and council report? Metro Vancouver Regional Representative report. The only thing I have to report is that there was an election, and myself and Mayor Linda Buchanan were selected to be the 4th and 5th mayor's representatives on the TransLink board from the Mayor's Council. So looking forward to that, and looking forward to helping the other leadership, Brad West and Mike Hurley, assist them in making real progress with advocating for municipalities and regional investments within TransLink, and a number of governance issues that the Mayor's Council would like to address. So with that, anybody else have any other Metro Vancouver Regional Committee representatives report? Great, seeing none. Anything on items N1 to 6? Councillor Richter.
Yes, item N1. I'm just wondering, I know that this is part of a pilot project, but I have received calls from people who live in the area that are quite concerned that it's being very disruptive to their neighborhood, because it's not just the actual filming days that are a problem, it is the preparation for the filming days, and then the tear down after the filming days. So I know that this is an ALC pilot project. At some point, will the ALC be asking for input either from council or the public on whether or not this pilot project should be continued?
It's our understanding they will be, Your Worship, most likely through council, and most likely at the end of this second year, I believe it was specified. So it's something we'd like to be seeing early next year.
Okay. And when ALC does contact council, can we put a notice on the website and maybe in the local papers, if we're still using the local papers, about public giving feedback?
To the extent that council may wish to engage the public to give them feedback to help form their feedback to the ALC, yes, we can.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Martins.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to raise N5, the Mayor's Task Force on the Langley Regional Airport. We had a pretty lengthy presentation, I guess the slides from a presentation included in our agenda package, and also a work plan for the task force. And I know that we had discussed this topic I believe it was last fall as a council, and we had moved that there would be public consultation, and I thought it was throughout the process. But when I'm looking at the work plan, I'm not sure exactly where public consultation is coming in. So I'm a little worried about that. I'm wondering if I can get some clarification of where the public consultation piece is in all of this process.
Mr. Bagan?
Thank you, Your Worship. I believe that's to occur later in the process, only because right now the work plan is trying to come up with some ideas or concepts that they can present to the airport community, then go more broadly. So it would be happening, I think, later on in the process.
So there will be an opportunity then that it's not just going to stick within this task force, that it's going to be brought forward. I'm mindful of the fact that this theater was essentially full of people who have a very vested concern in the future of the airport. And I want to ensure that they have a voice before it's too far out of the gates.
I think they could occur at two occasions. It would be the final meeting of the actual task force when it's actually making its recommendations, or when the recommendations come forth to council.
I think that's the expectation for the members of the task force, that it's going to make recommendations to council, and then when they come to council, council could certainly refer those for public input or dispose of them as it wishes.
So,
Yep.
So there is no public consultation prior to a final report coming to the council? Because I thought that was the discussion we had, and recognized that there are a lot of people in this community who have a very vested interest, and that we as a council had agreed that they would be included in this process, not waiting till the final recommendations. So like a public input opportunity, once we've got a concept plan in mind or something like that, rather than waiting to come and listen to the debate at the council table.
Mr. Bagan, I believe it's not what's happening. So I think what we'll do is the task force has been called, and as procedure of the Local Government Act, the staff arranged representatives of the number of the groups that were present at some of those meetings. A number of them were present at the task force to have their voices heard, and so that's not what's happening. So I think that there'd be a number of options to get to a recommendation, or get to some thoughts and some ideas that are presented to council that can then have a starting point for a consultation process, if that's what council so wishes. Does that make sense?
I think so, Your Worship. And just to reiterate and confirm, you've mentioned that the task force has several parties in it that are promoted by groups at the airport itself.
That's correct.
My understanding is that they're to report back to the general population of the airport and to whoever may be interested, and that report back will dictate, I think, the next steps that they may take, which, as you referenced, could be at the council table, or if they were, if the committee, if the task force so desired, could also be at that June 20th meeting.
That's correct. And I believe they were asked for a representative from a wide range of groups, the groups that were present here in the audience. And it was them who selected and proposed a name to represent their interests, and a number of them have also chosen to attend the task force meetings. The councillor you just may not know that.
Yeah, no, I don't, because I'm just going by what's attached in this agenda package. I'm pretty much in the dark on all of it. But so you're, just so I'm understanding then, so that the task force meeting, people can come and attend and actually have dialogue, or they're just there to witness the conversation?
And Mr. Backin, at the last meeting, there were a number of people there, and as the chair, I did permit them to speak as guests to the proceedings.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful, because I have heard some concerns expressed from that community. So thank you.
Please feel free to have them passed on to me. Anything else on items N1 to 6? Because I have not heard similar concerns. Anything else on items 1 to 6? This item, motion arising from information 01, I'll move that. Seconded by Councillor Rent. Is there any discussion on 01? Call the question on 01. That carries unanimously. Any other business? So I have a couple of items I'd like to raise. Now, Ms. Bauer, when delegations are filed to speak to council, I was very liberal here today. I've been liberal in the past. Members of the public seem to be coming to council with presentations that are clearly longer than 5 minutes. And I'm not interested in cutting them off or having them not have a reasonable chance to be heard. I'm wondering if staff can prepare a brochure or other constructions that when someone does file a delegation request, that they're outlined that it is for 5 minutes, and to please tailor their presentation lengths to 5 minutes. Do you do that already, or is there more documentation or other brochure or other items we could potentially provide so we're not having members of the public come forward with an expectation of more than 5 minutes?
We do it already, but we will endeavor to highlight it.
Highlight it again, because I think we want to hear from the public, but we certainly also, we saw today that over an hour was consumed with delegation time, and I'm open to allowing them to have a reasonable chance to be heard, but if you could please reiterate that the delegations are 5 minutes in addition to what you're already doing, just try to help the public tailor their timelines and their remarks, and I know you do that, but we saw here today that those seem to be getting longer and longer as meetings go by. Yeah. I'm going to also raise the items under for Telegraph Trail on today's distribution, items 11 and 12. Mr. Backin, I believe there was an incident on Sunday. Could you let us know what that was?
Certainly, Your Worship. As we understand it, around the 21500 block of Telegraph Trail, some kids were playing in the street and playing on some private property, and a ball went out into the road. The child actually dashed between parked cars and was collided with a car. Fortunately, the injuries were not life-threatening. The child was transported for medical assistance to hospital, and the matter is still under review by the RCMP.
Yeah, that's great. And I heard that it was also, thankfully, not life-threatening, but also, very unfortunate. A surgery was required. I'd like to make a motion that we look specifically at traffic calming and other measures to improve safety on Telegraph Trail and within the vicinity of to transit between 208th Street and 216th Street, and get a report on that, what may be appropriate to consider for that area specifically due to that concern. Is there a seconder to that? Seconded by Councillor Van Popta. Is there any discussion on that request for a report? Councillor Martins.
Thank you. Yeah, and I'd actually hit push to talk for exactly this issue, so I thank you for raising it, and I thank you for the motion. I'm glad to hear that we're looking at what more we can do for the residents. There were three letters in the distribution list today alone from this event, and it's been already been out in the local news. I just want to acknowledge that the driver did stay on scene and cooperate, so I'm glad to hear that. And just best wishes to the child and their family on a full recovery from this incident. So I look forward to seeing what more we can do.
Councillor Pratt?
Yeah, thank you again, Your Worship, for bringing this up. I think it's definitely something that across all neighborhoods in Langley, we definitely need to look more on what's possible in terms of traffic calming. So I'm glad we're making some progress here.
Yeah, I think this is a good one to highlight some potential process and policy changes. I know in watching council for a number of years, there was Mr. Back, maybe remind, there was some policy evolution in the mid-teens, maybe around 2015, resulting from certain residents requesting traffic calming, it's installed, and then other residents requesting it be removed. And that led to a policy that was very onerous to install traffic calming. Do I have the history right there?
Oh, that's pretty much correct, Your Worship, yes.
Yeah, and so I think this is a good test case because of that uniqueness of 208 to 216 to look specifically. I drove it this morning on my way here, and I can see the nature of the concern, especially in front of Alex Hope, where there is traffic calming. In other areas there isn't in order to transit through Telegraph Trail. There are sidewalks and other amenities, but there's very wide roads and the configuration of some of these. And so I think it's relatively unique given that proximity to the new interchange versus some other policy considerations for other areas where maybe this uniqueness doesn't apply. So I certainly appreciate council's support, assuming it's there, to look more seriously specifically at this neighborhood. Councillor Bailey?
Yeah, I'm glad to see this come up because in so many instances, when it comes to emergency services and that, and people come forward and start to say, in a preventative way, if we do this and, it'll benefit. But what always comes up is, well, we really don't have any examples and all that. And unfortunately, it takes incidents like this to show that preventative stuff is a whole lot better than being reactive. And that's exactly what the situation we're in right now. And I'd really appreciate if, when people bring forward recommendations, that we have a different lens on being able to work more proactively than reactively. And unfortunately, it takes incidents where people get injured or killed to sometimes move the stick.
Great, appreciate that. And especially if we're going to start to see arbitrary densification of these areas due to provincial legislation. I think it may be something to look at differently in newer areas versus some of these older style neighborhoods which have different street configurations. So with that, I'll call the question on P1. Call it. That carries unanimously. Councillor Martins, any other business?
No, it was just the same item. Yeah, thank you.
Is there any other business? No? Okay, so I will direct the agenda back to E5, and I will turn the chair over to Acting Mayor Bailey. Ms. Bauer, it's an interest of another kind, more on the perception of a conflict of interest rather than a conflict of interest, and we'll just follow legal advice. Thank you.
Ms. Bauer, are you ready on the panel there? Thank you. Okay, so we'll bring up E5, and we'll bring that into consideration now. Councillor Van Popta.
Oh, no, I was just moving it.
Okay, moved by Councillor Van Popta, seconded by Councillor Rent. You can talk to it?
Well, yeah, I hope so.
Oh, God, here we go.
Where's your buttons, man?
I'm not sure where the button is. Can you help me out there, Ms. Bauer?
There we go.
Okay, you're lit up.
Yeah, I'm lit up. I'm lit up. So, when I made this motion a year or so ago about looking at the waterfront of Fort Langley, an integral piece of that was addressing the Haldy House. It has been maintained structurally on the inside about the heritage components. But a part of Fort Langley's history, a part of the waterfront is the Haldy House, and it's nice to see this report and have this piece taken out while we still figure out the reports and stuff on the rest of the waterfront design. But very impressed with the pricing that was on this for restoration and moving and creating of a new foundation. Really happy to see that it's going to be protected from future potential flood incidences, being that it's going to be elevated to a grade that will protect it. So really thankful for this report, super happy with the information that's in it, and really happy to support this motion.
Councillor Martins.
My mic's lit up.
Yeah, it would be Councillor Pratt.
Oh, Councillor Pratt. There we go. Sorry, I got to reverse order.
Thank
here.
you, Your Worship. So yeah, I'm very pleased myself to see the investment being brought here today, hopefully to bring back the Holiday House to its former glory. So thank you to Councillor Van Popta for her work there. I'm personally even more pleased that we have the potential here to add some community-focused space in the fort. I think that the village does an amazing job acting as a commercial hub, but I think something, whether it's formal like a neighborhood house or less formal here at the Holiday House site, is going to be fantastic for the fort. I did have a question through yourself to staff. In the capital request that we're voting on today, there's a public consultation piece that's built in. There was a public consultation piece also built into the March 13th motion in regards to the Fort Langley waterfront project. I'm wondering if the survey that was undertaken by the township last year is informing this public consultation process, and when we might expect to see any kind of results from that.
Acting Mayor Bailey, the public consultation that was previously done has been taken into account in the draft plan that you see attached to this report. The public consultation that's referred to in the recommendations will be another full round of public consultation upcoming once council gives the go-ahead.
Great, so that'll be sort of based on the fact that we're reinvigorating the Holiday House. Now this is the next step. What do you think? That's the kind of public consultation we're going to see moving forward?
Correct, and focused on the plan that's on, it's attachment B to the report.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Councillor Richter.
Couple of questions. Number one, do we have an exact location as to where the Holiday House will be relocated to?
We do. I'll maybe ask Director Groves to just come forward because he's been a lot more involved in the detail and could describe the exact location, but it's fronting, as he's coming up, it's fronting Bedford House, fronting Glover Road with the new Holiday House location. But Director Groves, you can describe the details, please.
Yes, through Acting Mayor. On Appendix A, there's a key plan with the location map of where the new Holiday House location would be. It is shifting it slightly towards Glover Road, but mostly south, and of course lifting it as was mentioned.
So it's going to be right close to the railway tracks then, or sort of?
Slightly closer than it is currently, yes.
So what is it going, it looks to me from this map that that's where the laundry is, that's, yeah, okay. So it'll go where the laundry building is. Okay. My second question is, just curious, I'm glad to see that staff are going to apply for funding from other levels of government. I'm just wondering, how much provincial funding has the township been getting through grants to the provincial government lately? I know we've had some federal funding, but have we had any provincial funding?
There has been some provincial funding, and in fact, we're anticipating a few, some more, I guess. That's our hope anyways. I think best, however, if we let finance come back and advise in terms of how much we have received provincially this term.
Okay, so that's a follow-up piece they could give us. All right, thank you.
Councillor Ferguson.
Oh, yes, thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I think this is a really good report. I think Donald Uxton has done, he's a go-to guy for things like heritage and other things. I can't remember, going through the chair, has he done work for us in the past? I'm not sure, Scott would know, or maybe the senior staff would know.
He has, going back a number of years on heritage matters.
Yeah, he's known, and I still remember this building, right? They had the Bedford House there, and Bedford Restaurant there, and I remember before I was even a council member having a number of discussions about what to do with the building and also what to do with the site next to it. and then again, and when I was elected again. So many interesting debates and meetings with folks in the area. So I'm looking forward to proceeding with this project once council decides accordingly.
Councillor Martins.
Thank you. Yeah, so I know the people in Fort Langley are pretty excited to finally see something happening with this property, with the Haldie House in particular. A couple questions, if I can, about this. I know that it's not on the heritage inventory, but it's within the preservation area. Will there be any sort of communication to the Heritage Advisory Committee? Anything being taken back to them? Because it does seem that there's not an opportunity for public feedback, or unless I've missed a step here, with regard specifically to the Haldie House restoration.
Through your worship to Councillor Martins, the Haldie House has been discussed at previous Heritage Advisory meetings. I believe there was a presentation at the Heritage Advisory meeting regarding the Haldie House, specifically the Fort Langley waterfront, which included various options in relation to relocation and conservation of the Haldie House. Once the item is approved, potentially approved here, that item, Heritage Advisory Committee would be informed of that as well.
All right, so is this actual twisting at 45 degrees essentially and improving the foundation, that information's already been discussed at the Heritage Advisory? Or are you just speaking more generally that there's an interest in the township preserving it?
There were several options, I believe, in the presentation historically that included the relocation and conservation of that. So that was potentially one of the options that was presented.
Okay, all right. And then, and I only ask that because I sit on that committee, and we will, Councillor Kuntz and I will definitely bring this information back to them as well, so they have an update. And Councillor Pratt, to his comment with regards to a community-focused space, which I think is great, but I also know that some of the additions are not being preserved. We're just going back to the original house, and my eyes are not very good when I'm looking at the attachment. Could I get an idea of approximately what we're talking square footage on, like the main floor, just to have a visual on the size of the space that we are, considering for community focus?
Through Acting Mayor Bailey to Councillor Martins, it's approximately 1,000 square foot on the main floor and the second floor. I guess a little smaller on the third floor. Okay.
All right, and no, I think it's cool, and I am really happy to see this. I think it's great to move on with this. I actually went through family photos, and the picture of when my children were much younger, I'm sitting on the steps of the restaurant that was already closed at that time. So I know we've been in waiting for a long time. So good to see this one moving forward. Thank you.
Seeing no other speakers on the list, we'll call for the vote. Hang on. Well, it looks like it's unanimous so far. No, well, Councillor Bailey voted here.
Okay, you have to, once you'll touch vote complete?
I did.
Yeah. Okay. It just hasn't come up, so I'm confused.
But we haven't labeled it, that's why.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. There you go. Thank you. Okay, so I yield the chair here back to the mayor.
Councillor Bailey, I believe the intention of the mayor was to complete the meeting, so there would just be the motion to go and turn to closed, and then the termination of the meeting.
Okay, so we'll have a motion to close. That is Councillor Van Popta, and seconded by Councillor Rint. I haven't, oh, there we are, sorry. Councillor Martins.
I apologize to the chair. Did I miss some if we had items to add to closed?
Oh, thank you very much.
No, it's okay.
So does anyone have any items to take into close? Councillor Martins.
Thank you. Yes, I have a property item.
Okay, property. Anyone else? Oh, I can't, speak up? No? Oh, hang on. Go ahead, Councillor Rent. Okay, legal. Anyone else? Okay, motion to adjourn or terminate or.
Mr. Chair,
Councillor.
we have to call the question on going into close, then a motion to terminate.
Thank you.
Which you may like to do with just a show of hands if you'd like.
Okay, show of hands to go into close. Pass, and now, motion to terminate? Terminate. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, 3:45. 3:45. 3:30. That's right, they all raise their hands. Okay. Same mover and seconder.